Hello everyone, welcome to our class in dressmaking NC210. For today's topic, we are going to discuss the procedure in taking body measurements for ladies' trouser. Here are the learning objectives of our lesson. At the end of the learning activity, the students should be able to A. Discuss tips in taking body measurements for ladies' trouser. B. Explain the procedure in taking body measurements for ladies' trouser. And letter C. Apply the procedure in taking body measurements for ladies' trouser. Before we start our lesson, you will have first your pre-test. Don't you worry, class. For this pre-test, it is only to test your prior knowledge about our lesson. I will give you 10 seconds to answer each item. So, here is the direction of your pre-test. Are you ready, class? Okay, for your pre-test, it is a matching type. So, here is the direction. Match column A with column B and then write your answer in your answer sheet. So, are you ready? So, here is the first question. Number 1, taken around the smallest part of the torso or body with a tape measure. So, time start now. Time's up. Afterwards, we are going to check your answers. Second question. Measured around the fullest part of the thigh in line with the crotch. Time start now. Time's up. So, let's go to third question. Taken around the fullest part of the second length, hip or buttocks with a tape measure. Time start now. Time's up. Let's go to number 4. Taken from the waist down to the desired length. Time start now. Time's up. And the last question, taken from the waist down to the crotch with the use of tailor's square or ruler or tape measure. Time start now. Okay, time's up. Let's check your answer. So here is the answer key. For number 1, the answer is F, which is waist. For number 2, the answer is B, which is thigh. And for number 3, the answer is A, which is sit or hip. And for number 4, the answer is C, which is pants length. And for number 5, the answer is D, which is rise or crotch. Who got a perfect score, class? Okay, very good for those who got a perfect score. For those who got low scores, don't you worry. For this lesson will help you to understand well our lesson. So, okay, let's go to recap. For this recap, this is only a review on our past lesson. Let's see whether you can still remember our past lesson. So, here is the question for our recap. I will give you 10 seconds to answer it. What are the body parts to be measured in making trousers? So time start now. Time's up. So here are the answer. Waist, first hip, second hip, pants length, thigh, knee, rise or crotch, and bottom circumference. So after knowing the different body parts to be measured in making our trouser, here are the tips in taking body measurement for ladies trouser. And that is our lesson. We have 8 tips in taking body measurements for ladies trouser. First is use a clear and correctly numbered tape measure. Of course, you need to use a clear and correctly numbered tape measure. Second, start from number 1 when taking measurements. Yes, you need to start from number 1 when taking measurements. Third, never take your own measurements. Why? Why not to be measure your own measurements? This might be not accurate. And fourth, stand straight when being measured. So you need to stand straight when you are being measured. Fifth, empty the pockets and remove the belts when measurements are being taken. So you need to empty your pockets and remove your belts when being measured. Why? Because it will add bulk on your measurements. Follow the correct order. 6 is follow the correct order of taking the body measurements. So you need to follow the correct order or the correct procedure on how you're going to take the body measurements. 7, measurements should never be too tight or too loose. Which means, in taking body measurements, it should not be too tight, yung very tight, or too loose, or yung very too loose. And the last one is record all measurements immediately. So you need to record all your measurements immediately, for you will not forget it. So here are the needed measurements. First is your vertical measurements. For vertical measurements, they are taken from top to bottom. So we have 2 measurements needed in our trouser for vertical measurements. First is pants length. For pants length, it is taken from the waist down to the desired length. This measurement is taken at the side with a tape measure. So, as you can see on the picture, that is how we are going to measure our pants length. Second, rise or your crotch. For rise or crotch, it is taken from the waist down to the crotch with the use of a tape measure. So, as you can see on the picture, that is how you're going to measure rise measurement or your crotch measurement. Next, needed measurements is the horizontal measurements. So, we have 5 horizontal measurements needed in our trouser. For horizontal measurements, this horizontal measurements is taken around our body. So first, horizontal measurements needed for our trouser is waist. Waist is taken around the smallest part of the torso or body with a tape measure. So as you can see on the picture, that is how you're going to measure your waist measurements, and you need to apply, or you need to keep in your mind the tips on how you're going to measure the body measurements needed for pants or our trouser. Second is seat or your hips. It is taken around the fullest part of the second hip or buttocks with a tape measure. So as you can see on the picture, so that is how you're going to measure your seat or hip measurements. So again, always remind the tips on how you're going to measure the needed measurements. Third is thigh. Measured around the fullest part of the thigh in line with the crotch. So it is shown from the picture on how you're going to measure thigh measurements. And for number 4, width of knee or your knee measurements. It is taken from the back creases line to the front creases line at the knee line of the pants. Or you are going to measure around your knee circumference. So it is shown on the picture on how you're going to measure knee measurements or your width of knee measurements. And number 5, bottom circumference. It is taken at the bottom of the pants from the desired length. So it is shown on the picture on how you're going to measure bottom circumference. It is shown from the picture. So next is for rise measurement. For rise measurements or your for crotch measurements, we have 2 techniques on how you're going to take your rise measurements or how you're going to measure the rise measurements or your crotch measurements. First is a standing position. For standing position, it is taken from waistline in front, under crotch to waistline in back. Indicate front to center and center to back measurements. So it is shown on the picture on how you're going to measure your rise measurement for standing position. For sitting position or a seated position, follow contour of body from waistline to hip, then hold tape straight from hip to chair, from the base of the chair. So as shown on the picture, you can easily measure your rise measurements or your crotch measurements on a seated position. So any question? Any question, class? So I have here 2 different activities. For your activities and for your post-test, you're going to send it on my messenger account. For the different activities, you're going to send it on my messenger account. So here is the first activity. You're going to have a video clip demonstration. So for the direction, you're going to demonstrate on how to take vertical and horizontal measurements and techniques in taking the rise measurement. Start doing the demonstration from vertical measurement up to rise measurement. Discuss how you do the measurements. And then, as I've said, you're going to send it on my messenger account after you have your video clip demonstration. And for the second activity, you are going to identify the given measurements, whether vertical or horizontal. You are going to write your answer in your answer sheet. So we have only seven body measurements. So you are going to identify whether that is vertical or horizontal measurements. And again, after doing that, you're going to send it on my messenger account. And then for the wrap up, you're going to answer it briefly, the given set of questions. So for your answer, you write it on a one whole sheet of paper and then send it on my messenger. You take a picture and then send it on my messenger account. So here are the 3 questions for our wrap up for our lesson. So first is, what are the tips in taking body measurements for ladies' trouser? Give at least 3. So take note, give at least 3. And then second, discuss the procedure on how to take measurements on the following. So we have 7 body measurements. You're going to discuss on how you're going to measure the different body measurement given. And the third, what are the ways of measuring the crotch or your rise measurement? So, any question, class? Okay, let's go to valuing part. For the valuing part, you're going to complete the sentence. Let's see whether you have learned from this lesson. So here are the sentence you're going to complete. You write it on your answer sheets and then you take a photo and then send it on my messenger account. So here is the sentence. First is, the knowledge that I've learned today is are blank. So you're going to complete the sentence. Second is, I have realized that. Okay, you're going to complete the sentence again. And then the third is, today I am confused in etc. So you're going to complete the sentence again. Again, you're going to write it on your answer sheets, then take a photo or take a screenshot and then send it on my messenger account. Okay, for your post test, here is the direction. Read and understand the statement carefully. Write the letter that best describes the statement and then write your answers on your answer sheet. So I will read the question twice and then I will give you 10 seconds to answer each item. First question, are you ready? Okay. First question. It is taken around the smallest part of the torso or body. A. Rise. B. Thigh. C. Knee. D. Waist. Time start now. Time's up. Second question. Measured around the fullest part of the thigh in line with the crotch. Measured around the fullest part of the thigh in line with the crotch. A. Knee. B. Seat or hip. C. Thigh. D. Waist. Time start now. Time's up. Next, third question. Taken around the fullest part of the second hip or buttocks with a tape measure. It is taken around the fullest part of the second hip or buttocks with a tape measure. A. Thigh. B. Waist. C. Sit or hip. D. Knee. Time start now. Time's up. For number 4, body measurements taken from the waist down to the desired length. It is a body measurements taken from the waist down to the desired length. A. Pants length. B. Width of knee or your knee circumference. C. Width of bottom or your bottom circumference. And letter D. Sit or hip. Time start now. And for the last, it is taken at the bottom of pants on the desired length. It is taken at the bottom of pants on the desired length. A. Sit or hip. B. Pants length. C. Width of the knee. D. Width of bottom. A. Sit or hip. B. Pants length. C. Width of knee or your knee circumference. D. Width of bottom or your bottom circumference. Time start now. Time's up. So you're going to take a photo on your answer and then send it on my messenger account. Now, okay, this is the second post test. Second type of your post test. A. What are the techniques in taking the rise or crotch measurements? So again, I will give you 10 seconds to answer each item or each question. So for letter A, what are the techniques in taking the rise or crotch measurements? So you are going to give 2 techniques in taking the rise or crotch measurements. Time start now. Time's up. For letter B, what are the tips in taking body measurement for ladies' trouser? What are the tips in taking body measurement for ladies' trouser? So I will give you 10 seconds again to answer the question. Time start now. Okay, time's up. Again, you're going to take a photo on your answer and then you need to send it, your answer, on my messenger account. Now, so you may check your answer on the key to correction whether you pass our lesson or you pass the pre-test and our post-test. So you have here the key to correction. So you can now determine whether you got it all or you got low score. So for those who got a perfect score, congratulations. For those who get a low score, you may read again our lesson and then you take again the post-test or the pre-test and then you check your own answers. So thank you for listening. I hope you have learned something for today. Thank you and God bless.